I'm going to try to cover the subjects that I have in kind of an all-inclusive manner, because the financial aspect is so vitally important to every stage of life. Now, what tends to happen as we age and life goes on, what happens? Change happens, right? And there can be a lot of different types of change in our own physical health, the physical health of someone we love passing away, changing a job, but life doesn't stay stagnant. That's the nature of life. That's what it's all about. And to me, we have to realize that as life changes, our financial house has to be in a situation where it will change with us. Now, what's happening to some of you now, you're finding yourself all of a sudden being in charge of the financial house, and maybe you never were before. Because don't we tend to fall into roles when we have two people living together? And it's not an intentional thing. It's just something one does better than the other or enjoys doing more than the other. And we fall into different roles. Well, the good of that is it adds to efficiency. You get a lot done. The not so good part of it is when one can't do that role anymore, now the other has to pick it up. Now, when it comes to something as simple as maybe washing the dishes or taking out the trash, that's not too bad. But when it comes to making major financial decisions, that becomes difficult, okay? So some of the things I'm going to talk about are going to seem to be very general, but we're going to have to pick and choose what applies to each and every one of you. Now, one of the things I want you to be very, very careful about, and I see this all the time in my practice. People retire, we get a 401k, we had a 403b, we had the DROP program. If we were involved with the government, we had a TSP, whatever it was. But all of a sudden, you have a sum of money. Most of us are accustomed to getting, our check every week, and we put it in, we budget, and we put some aside for savings. And now all of a sudden, it's changed because you got a bucket of money. Now this is what I want to caution you on, especially those of you who are just getting into, who are just getting into this phase of taking care of money. What I don't want you to do is think that this much money is this much money. You see where I'm going? Because sometimes that happens. We retire, something happens, you're lucky enough to win the lottery. If you do, you call my office first, okay? But all of a sudden you've got a sum of money, and it looks like you can accomplish unbelievable things with it. But one of the things you have to realize is we still have to stay within the budget, because what happens, that money will disappear very quickly. Now, those of you who are caretakers, that's something I want you to be very careful about, because if too much is spent in one area, one can be left destitute. And that is something I strive very hard in my practice to avoid having that happen. Because we've got to make sure that whatever is there, it is used to the best possible means for everyone involved, okay? Now, I know sometimes people get nervous when I talk about families, but my own family, and you'll realize that when you read my book, was separated for many years because of greed. And we all think, oh, my kids get along and everything is fine, and now that they know I've got money, they're not going to bother me. Please be careful with that, okay? Don't do something permanently foolish just because you're temporarily upset. Because when we are upset, when we are emotional, we're very likely to make decisions that later we realize were not the best for us. okay? So this is when one of the kids comes, or two of the kids come, and they realize you've gotten some dollars from the 403Bs, the TSPs, whatever, and Mom, can we borrow? Mom, we need. They show up, you know, with the flowers, but the past due and the final notice on their bills. We all want to help everybody, right? But the first one you've got to take care of is yourself and your loved one. Please make that the priority in your financial house. Don't start giving it away, and don't fall for the thing of, but I'm going to pay it back. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't happen. If it does, I want to meet your relative, okay? So, here's the thing, what we've got to do. We have to have a plan. Now, when people first sit down, or when people come into my office, what I tend to find that they have is they've got some money here, we got some money here, we got some money over there, and I'll say, well, what is your plan? Well, I got money here, and I got money there, and I got money. That's not a plan. That's pieces of a puzzle. So what we need to do is pull those pieces of the puzzle together so that now you have a picture. You have a road map to follow. You always leave yourself some room in that road map to diverge a little bit if we have to, but the thing is to always come back to the plan, okay? If you don't have a plan, you really need to sit down and talk to someone to help you pull a plan together that is going to be vital for you, okay? What do I spend? When do I spend? How much can I spend? Where do I take it from? And I'm going to talk more about that. So, here are some rules that I want you to be aware of, and if you're out talking to people to help you in your financial house, these are things you must be aware of. If you are not, you are cheating yourself by not knowing all of the facts, okay? There are basically 3 stages of money: the growth stage, the distribution, preservation stage. Growth is when we're 30, 40, 50, we're out there working, we're putting money aside. We're trying to make it grow, right? So they take $50 out of your check, they take $100, $200, whatever it is you've set aside. 99% of the people in my profession do that phase, the growth phase. Honestly, it's the easiest one to do. If you're a halfway good planner, you don't have to be a genius, if you're a halfway good planner and you've got a faithful saver, the growth phase is pretty easy to get to. When you start spending, and we got to preserve enough to make sure it lasts the rest of your life, that's where you've got to make a step and get a specialist. You know, Dr. Keller told you I've been doing work with Sacred Heart Hospital in Pensacola, and Destin and Providence Hospital. I've been doing that going on 16 years. I've had a lot of those doctors on my radio show. We've got to be pretty good friends. No, great heart specialist over there. Now, if I went to a doctor and he said, Annalee, you got a tumor in your brain, we got to take it out. I am not going to go to the cardiac doctor and say, Doc, could you do this for me? You see the point I'm getting to? But yet we consistently go back to the growth people and we say, help me through distribution, help me through preservation. Many of them don't know the rules. So these are the questions you want to ask when you go to see someone financially. Number one thing you want to know: what license do you hold? What are your licenses? Now let me explain the difference. They say, I have an insurance license. Insurance will allow them to do something like a life policy, an annuity, a long-term care, a Medicare plan. Now don't you think if you're working with people in this age group, you better know about long-term care plans and Medicare plans, that's pretty much of a necessity, okay? A lot of people in the growth stage don't even get those licenses, so they don't know about them. They're basically your stockbrokers, okay? So what kind of license do you have? Now here's the next question that's real important. Are you an independent or are you a captive? Now what does that mean? I'm not saying one's better than the other. Understand what I'm saying, okay? I'm giving you facts. This is a 5.5 shoe. I wear it very comfortably. I'm not a betting woman. But I would be willing to bet money I could pass this shoe around and maybe 2 of you could wear it comfortably. The rest of you would be looking at me like, what are you trying to do to me, okay? But if I am a captive insurance agent, I work for a company, I have certain product and that's all I have. So whether this is comfortable for you or not, I'm going to try to fit your foot in it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay? Now, if you go to the independent agent is going to say, what size do you want? Do you want a flat? Do you want leather? Do you want suede? Or are you looking for something a bit more sporty? That person goes out and does the shopping for you and comes back to you and says, here's what we have. This is the best for you. This fits your need the best. Do you want to see the difference? Okay? Now, the next question you want to ask is, can you do money for me in the market? Do you hold a securities license? Okay? Bless you. If they hold a securities license, you want to find out what is it that you're able to offer. And do you have a fiduciary responsibility? I love that word. I like the way it even sounds. Do you have a fiduciary responsibility? In other words, ask point blank, who do you work for? And if somebody says, I work for XYZ company, that tells you something. When someone asks me, who do you work for? I work for you. I work for you. Whoever's across from my desk that day is who I work for. So you want someone who's independent, has the fiduciary responsibility, because they're then going to do research to find out where you need to go. Does that make sense? Okay? All right. I forgot my crystal ball. I left it in Pensacola. And I don't know the future. I'm teasing, huh? I don't know the future. But do you think, just maybe, our taxes are going to go up again? You think we're going to have inflation again?
Yes.
And think of it, you know, we don't think about inflation. But I always tell people to do this. Write down what you paid for your first house, and then on top of it, write down what you paid for your last car. See, that's inflation, right? We don't think about it because it creeps up on us. But when I get in my car, I feel like I should have a little fireplace and a little bathroom and a little bedroom. I mean, I just bought my first house all over again. So inflation's going to happen. All the writing is on the wall that we're going to have changes in our benefit structures, in our Social Security, our Medicare, our Medicaid. Now, not so much for this generation, but I think the younger generations, the 50 and under, they're going to see some major changes in those structures coming along. So you got to be ready for that kind of stuff. Now, y'all haven't met Joan. Joan will be here in a little while. Joan is my business partner. I have no idea how she got Elvis Presley's Social Security card. But that is actually his Social Security card. I might get arrested one day for showing this. I don't know. A lot of you I know are on Social Security. Some of you are not. We have to go through this because this is a vital, vital part of your financial plan if you have not yet started Social Security. So here we go. The earliest you can take is age 62. People come to me and say, Annalee, should I take it 62, should I not? I don't know, because there is no yes, no answer. Do you need it? Will it change your lifestyle? Do you have a short life expectancy? Maybe you ought to go ahead and take it, okay? If other factors come into play, you probably should not. Here's why. You get a huge discount. If you wait till you're 66, full retirement age, you can make as much money as you want and there's no penalty. Excuse me, under 66 there's actually a penalty. If you make too much money, they make you give money back. I don't think that's a good deal, personally, okay? So think about it this way. If you were still actively working and your employer said to you, every year you don't take your pension, but you stay and work, I'm going to increase your pension by 8%. We'd think about it pretty hard, wouldn't we, if we halfway liked the job? That's what happens here. It goes up by 8% a year. So if you have a good genetic factor, you're in good health, the longer you can wait, the more beneficial it will be for you. There's a crossover point as to when you catch up and start getting ahead. That crossover point for most people is right at age 79, 80. Now, how many of us know somebody that's over the age of 95? Didn't used to happen. Now we've got people living to 100 and longer. That's why we have to think more about when should I take my benefit, okay? The other thing important to you is spousal benefit. Who is the higher wage earner? Put off taking the Social Security of the higher wage earner as long as possible. Let's just take a sample. Let's say you're both 66. Let's say if the higher wage earner waits till 70, their benefit's going to be $3,000. The lower wage earner, if you take it 66, let's say is going to get $800 a month. The higher wage earner can do one of two things. Let the lower wage earner take the $200. The higher wage earner goes in and applies for spousal benefits. Now you both got to be 66 for this to work. You get half of the benefit applied for. So you just added $1,200 a month to your pocket. The higher wage earner gets to be 70, flips theirs on, gets the $3,000. Lower wage earner drops theirs, applies for spousal benefit. You get $1,500. You've now got $4,500. So you helped yourself have a hedge against inflation. Now the important thing is if the higher wage earner passes away, the lower wage earner continues to get that money, the higher amount. See why if you can, don't just throw a dart and say, should I take it 62, 66, 70? Everybody thinks that's your only choice. There are 1,800 formulas as to how you can take Social Security. So don't just think, I'm going to go take it. Do the numbers before you do that, please. Those of you who are already taking it, I can't do anything about that, but those of you who have not yet, please think about those angles, okay? Divorcees, if you were married to someone for 10 years or more, you can collect on their Social Security. They never know about it. It doesn't affect theirs. You can collect on their Social Security, okay? So, it's an individual circumstance. I can't tell you which is best for you. Now, here's part of the plan, and this is what I hear every day. Annalee, we got to take money. Where do we take it first?
Believe it or not, today, and I know you might laugh at this, but it's the honest to gosh truth, today, taxes are on sale. Let me repeat that. Today, taxes are on sale. Ladies, when do we love to go shopping? When things are on sale, don't we? I love Chico's. That's one of my favorite stores. They love me. I come in and say, oh, here comes Annalee again. Get ready. But what do? I go in and I look at something and say, oh, that's really nice. I like that. And I walk out. And I come back a few weeks later. It's been reduced a little bit. I walk back out. I come back in, and when it's 50% or more off, guess when I buy it? That's when I buy it. Now, why do I say taxes are on sale? If we go back in history, and history does repeat itself, correct? If you go back in history, our highest deficit comparatively to where we are today, now not in numbers, but percentage-wise, was right after World War II. Guess when our taxes were the highest? Right after World War II. Guess what the highest tax bracket was? 98%. What did they do? Raise the taxes to take care of the deficit. Taxes went down, deficit went down, deficit went up, they raised the taxes again, the deficit went down, the taxes went down, and they have gone down 3 times in a row and have not yet gone back up. So when I say taxes are on sale right now, understand what I'm saying. So very often what we'll do with someone is, and again, you've got to run the numbers. Remember, we got to have a plan. You got to run the numbers. Maybe instead of taking Social Security, we need to spend some of the fully taxable money. What's that? The IRAs, the 403Bs, the TSPs. That's fully taxable. Spend that now while the tax is lower, then kick in the Social Security, then kick in partially taxable money. That's things like CDs that have gotten an interest on them, an annuity that's had an interest on them. And then the last money you want to touch, the last, is the tax-free money. If any of you have a Roth, if you have a life insurance you can borrow from. You know, you can borrow your own death benefit. If you've got a universal life policy or a whole life policy, they're going to pay it eventually anyway. They like it when you take it out in little increments, and it's tax-free. That's my 2 favorite words. I don't get to use it real often, so when I do, I get all excited. Okay? So when do I take money first? Are you starting to see why I'm saying you got to have a plan? You got to know what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it. Okay? So let's talk about retirement accounts. Those of you who are taking over money, you must understand these rules, okay? Retirement accounts, money that went into a savings, you did not pay taxes on that money. You got a tax credit. Most people, 401ks, IRAs, individual retirement accounts, what we call traditional, 403B accounts, deferred comp, drop, TSP. Those are all types of retirement accounts that when you take them out, every penny that comes out creates a taxable event. So here's the good and the bad. You know, a lot of my clients come in and they say, Annalee, I don't want to take that money. I'm going to tell you why you have to take it. I don't want to take that money. It's going to put me in a higher tax bracket. Most of my retirees are in the same or higher tax bracket than they were when they were working. And this is one of the reasons, because you have to start taking that money out at a certain time. So you have to understand that, and you have to understand the rules. Now, if money is still a 401k, money is still a 403b, That means it is with the former employer. Now, question is, does anybody ever call you about that money? Does anybody ever help you with that money? Unless you call them. The answer is probably no. Your partner's with them. The advice always is take that money and make it an individual retirement account where you now have control over where it goes, how much risk you want to take with it, and it's much easier to pass on via beneficiary. It also makes your life a lot simpler. Has anybody noticed as we get older we like to make things a little bit simpler? Just a tad, you know? Life doesn't always let us do that, but we like to, okay? So here are rules you have to understand if you're taking care of money. Money that you have not paid taxes on. If you access that money before the owner is 59 1/2. Please don't anybody ask me where the half came from. We paid somebody in the government to come up with this formula. I have no idea. If you take that money out before 59 1/2, not only do you pay taxes, you pay a 10% penalty on your taxes. So don't use it unless you have to pre-59 1/2. Here's the other side of the coin. 70 1/2. Now if you are taking care of money, that is a very important age for you. The government gives us a formula. It's a life expectancy formula. There is a factor. If you call me or email me, I'll send you a copy of that factor list, okay? But that factor says to you how much money you must take out every year once you have reached 70 1/2. And the government does not take the excuse, oh, we didn't know. I took this money over and I didn't know a distribution had to be made. Oh, we're sorry. It's all right. Just give us half of what you were supposed to take out. The penalty is 50%. So if you have a large IRA and you were supposed to take out $10,000 and you don't take it out on time, Uncle Sam will claim 5,000 of that. No excuses. So you've got to understand those rules, okay? 59 1/2, 70 1/2. Those are your biggies. Date of birth is kind of a determinant factor. I'm not going to go into that a lot. It's not a real important aspect for you. Just remember the 59 1/2, the 70 1/2, okay? All right. Now, here's another reason why, to simplify, you may want to consider taking those qualified plans and making them IRAs. IRA stands for what? Individual Retirement Account. Individual. Who's in control? The individual. So you get to decide how much risk you want to take with it, where it's going to go, what you're going to use it for. 70 in different buckets. So you leave a 401k out there, and maybe you got a deferred comp and you got an IRA. You've got to take a required minimum distribution from each one of those. You got to do the paperwork 3 times. Okay? Now if you take them all and you make them all individual retirement accounts, and let's say you've got one IRA that's, let's say, a CD, you got one IRA that's in an annuity you've got to use for income, you've got one IRA that's in a CD. That's kind of your emergency money. And we all know what CDs are paying, right? Like if you're really lucky, 0.5. And if your bank pays 0.5, I want to know who they are, okay? They're just not paying anymore. I know some of you remember when they were paying 13, 14%, 12%, gone are the days, my friend. Not going to happen again. So it's time for your required minimum distribution. Let's say the one that's in the market is really doing well. And you don't want to disturb that right at this point. Let's say the one in the annuity, you've set that up for income later. This one's sitting over here making 0.5%. Where do you think I would advise you to take your required minimum distribution? You can combine all of them as far as amount is concerned, take one distribution from one place. See what I mean with simplifying and control? Okay, so think about that. If that money is too spread out, you need to start thinking about simplifying and pulling things together. You've got enough to think about. You've got enough decisions to make. Make it easy on yourself. Okay? All right. Here's the whole plan, people. You know, there's people out there that try to make this whole thing extremely complicated. And those are the people that try to make you realize how much they know and how little you know. If you're dealing with someone like that, just tell them goodbye. All right? You want somebody who's going to talk to you and speak to you in English. So here's what you look at. I don't care if you're in the first stages of money, the middle stages of money, the last stages of money. You need 3 buckets of money. The first, that's your rainy day money. That's the emergency money. Somebody gets sick, you gotta get on a plane, you gotta go to a hotel, you gotta pay for things. You can put that on the credit card, but when you come back, it's gotta be paid, right? We have one of our nice little winds that come through. You know, we hadn't had one in a while that takes pieces of our roof. That's the emergency money. That we call kind of dormant money. It's never going to make a lot for you. It's not going to do a lot, but it's liquid money, easy to get to. Now, for everybody, the amount in that bucket is different. I got some people like to keep 5,000 emergency money. Some like to keep it 10. I have a client, bless her heart, we lost her, it was a year ago in October, she passed away. She had been left very well off. And every now and then she'd call me and she'd say, sweetheart, and say, yes ma'am, I think I need some money. I said, well, okay, that's easy to do if you need some. What do you want? Where do you want me to put it? She said, well, I think I want to put it in the banking account. I said, really? Why? Because it's less than $100,000. And I said, could we please, ma'am, talk this through? And she said, yeah. I said, did you get the pension check and the Social Security check yet? She said, no. I said, well, you know, this money over here is making, some's at 3, some's at 4, some's at 5%. What's the bank paying you? She said, oh, they're not. I said, so doesn't it make more sense for us to keep it over here than over there? I said, let's wait till the pension and Social Security check come in. I'll call you next week. Sure enough, I called her the next week. She's back over the 100,000. But that was her comfort number, okay? I don't suggest that as a comfort number, all right? Your safe money, that's your live on money. That's your pension, that's your Social Security. That's an annuity you set up that's going to give you income you cannot outlive. That's safe, okay? The risk money is the grow-on money. That's the money that goes in the market to help you combat inflation. Now, the biggest mistake I see people do with these is they try to put them all in one bucket. Can't do that. You actually have to separate them, and you've got to know what each one is designed to do. So let's talk a little bit about the risk money, Wall Street. Does anybody know what's going to happen on Wall Street? No. I tell you what, if I did, I'd be a gazillionaire. I can tell you for sure 3 things. It's either going to go up, go down, or stay flat. I mean, that's it. Who do you think Wall Street works for? Wall Street. They want to make a profit for Wall Street. They're not in this job to make a profit for you. Understand that. People say, oh, Annalee, I don't need help with my money. I know when to get in the market. I know when to get out of the market. Do you really? You know more than the geniuses in the world if you do. Here's the importance of market timing. Read what Mark Twain said and tell me if you agree. Don't you think he's right? Yeah. You know, like what month do I go in, what month do I jump out? Now let me just give you a sample here. Here's a gentleman put in $500,000 at age 65. These yields are actually based on the annualized return of the Vanguard S&P Mutual Fund. You notice his first year he made 18, then 31, went down 5, got some decent returns. The very last year he went down negative 37. He started taking income out. He accelerated his income every year to keep up with inflation. At 94, he passes away. He had taken out $232,077 for income. He still had $3,015,939 in there. I am up for adoption. Okay? Now look what happens here. All I did here was I inverted the returns. I took the negative 37 and I started with that. You see what I did? That's all I did was inverted the returns. This guy took his 22, but because this gentleman made 18 and he lost 37, he had a balance of 567. He only had 292. Oh, is market timing important? I would think. Look down here, at 81, he's taking out 101,000, still has 2 million. He can only take 42 and he's down to 89. Look what happened at 84. He ran out of money before he ran out of life. That's the biggest fear today. That's why I say to you, you got to have a plan to make sure the money will be there for both yourself and whoever it is you're taking care of. That's a big difference. Don't try to time the market, and don't let anybody tell you that they can. They can't. It moves too quickly, okay? So if we look at this and we talk about, I call it the cruel math of the market, and let's just work in round numbers. You got $100,000 out in the market. Anybody remember 08? Yeah. I mean, their portfolios went down 30, 40, 50%. So let's say you were in one of those portfolios that went down 40%. You had $100,000 in, you just lost what? 40,000. You got 60. How many of you have heard these words? Oh, but don't worry, it'll come back. Huh? We're running out of that magic thing called time. So let's say it does come back 40%. Now you got 60. 40% times 60 is what? 24,000. 24,000 plus 60,000, 84,000. Have I come back yet? And God forbid you've got to be taking money out at that time. Because what just happened, you exponentially brought that loss up. Now you've got to make 40% a couple of years in a row, 50% a couple of years in a row. Not likely for that to happen, okay? So going into the plan aspect, what you've got to make sure is if you are in the market, you want to do two things. Simple rule. It's called the rule of 100. If you're 60, you should have no more than 40% of your money at risk. If you're 70, no more than 30% at risk. If you're 80, no more than 20. What do those all add up to? 100. See, that's why we call it the rule of 100. So you've got to start looking, now that you're going to be in charge of this money, how much of it is at risk, and if it is at risk, how much risk is it encountering? Big thing today is bond mutual funds. Bond mutual funds are very scary because they have no maturity date. That's scary. So if the interest rates go up, the worth of the bond goes down, people want their money, what does the bond manager do? He sells the bond, you just lost money. If you have individual, high quality, short-term, laddered bonds, what's the worst thing that can happen? If you hold it to its maturity date, you get your full principal, you get your interest, you get your dividends. Which side would you rather be on? See where I'm going? Make sure whatever portfolio you're in is very diversified. 95% of the portfolios that I analyze that come in have something like 43-45% in large cap growth, the majority of the rest of the portfolio in large cap value. That is not diversification. But Annalee, they're large cap, they're the big companies. You read the newspapers? Coca-Cola laying people off. People have stopped drinking soft drinks. McDonald's having problems because people want to eat healthier. What happened to GM a few years ago? What happened to Goldman Sachs? You got to diversify. Okay, you got to have things out there. What you want to look for is not taking too much risk in your portfolio. Remember the rule of 100, okay? So if you're 60, don't have 70% of your stuff out at risk. Don't settle for underperformance. Don't overcharge yourselves. People say, I got the account here, I got the account here, I got the account. You're just overcharging yourself. Make sure whoever you're working with will very clearly explain to you how they are paid and what fees you are paying. That's extremely important. How are they paid and what fees are you paying? You want a see-through situation. You want to be able to say, this person is managing my money, this is what I've paid them to do this, they're worth it or they're not. Not just getting your statement every month and saying, I wonder how those people make money. Believe me, none of them do it for free. It's hidden. It's back-end fees. You never see it. They come out before you see it. You want something that's a see-through situation that you can see at all times, okay? And please get someone who gives you personal service. I talk to people all the time. When was the last time you heard from this person managing your money? Oh, I called him a year ago. That is not service. You should be called every quarter. You should be called. Not you calling them. You should be called every quarter. Okay? So keep it simple. That's the biggest thing. Don't fall for this stuff. You know, I get all kind of magazines out there, and you got spider funds, and the spider fund is wrapped inside of a REIT fund, and the REIT fund is wrapped inside of an option fund. Every time you add a layer and it becomes more complicated, two things are happening. It's becoming more risky, and the fees are higher. Don't fall for that stuff. It sounds romantic and exciting and enchanting. Don't fall for that. It's a good way to lose money, okay? All right, so keep it simple. Make sure you invest, because if you don't invest, you can't take advantage of what's going on. Use the miracle of compounding. Have a plan. Do long-term investing, not short-term. That'll kill you. This buy and sell, these day traders, kill you. Don't do that, okay? And watch the expenses. Know what the expenses are. I have people come into my office and they say, Annalee, I want my money totally liquid. I want a 14% return, and I want no risk. You ever been to this place? It's a fantasy. That's Disney, people. I love Disney. But you know, once you get off the grounds, it doesn't exist anymore. I'm sorry, you didn't know that? Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. It's a fantasy land. So what you want to do in this diversification, remember we're talking about the buckets of money, make your safe money safe money. There are two types of annuities. You need to understand this so when someone is talking to you, you know what they are talking about. You got fixed annuities, you have variable annuities. Fixed annuities, they don't call them fixed because they're broken. They call them fixed because they pay you a fixed rate of return. Your principal is protected, your interest is protected. Here's the thing, they cannot go down. That's the fixed annuity. Variable annuities are a reflection of the market. Do you notice the first word? Variable. They go up and they go down. There's a tremendous amount of fees attached to them. There is no way to totally manage them because they don't give you enough options. Over the years, what they've tried to do is make variable annuities fixed annuities. Oh, I like you so much, I'm going to let you buy a guarantee of your principal. Oh, okay, that sounds pretty good. Oh, and by the way, I like you so much, I'm going to let you buy a guaranteed death benefit. Why am I buying that stuff that over here is already guaranteed without a fee? See, to me, it doesn't make sense. If you're going to be in the market, be in the market. Have it managed, have it liquid. If you're going to be in a fixed instrument, be in a fixed instrument. Does that make sense to you? Okay? Make sure you understand the difference between the two. And outright ask, is this a fixed annuity or a variable annuity? Because there are ways to present fixed annuities where you think you're getting a fixed, and you're not. So ask the questions, please. So the safe bucket, one of the things the industry has come out with over the last, well, we're now 20 years we've had these, are fixed indexed annuities. Like anything else out there, there are good ones, there are not so good ones, there are some that are really bad. Okay? The concept of what they do is excellent. They can never go down, they can only move laterally or up. This is what I mean. This line, the dark blue line, shows you what that Vanguard S&P fund did from 1998 to 2013. You see the market did very well. That 100 grew to 139, dropped down to 78, came back up to 145, dropped down to 100, little couple of bumps. 213 was up to 16300. Too bad if you needed it here, okay? Now, the indexed annuity, on the other hand, will never make what the market makes. They're a fixed annuity. Don't let anybody ever tell you they will. They're a fixed annuity. You use them for safety, you use them for income. Don't think of them as an investment. They pay interest. Investments give a return when you're in the market. The green line, it grew. It didn't grow as much as the market did. The market was at 136,937. This had grown to 125. This is when people come and say, why did you put me in that? Look at what the market did. Hold on. Be patient. Market dropped to 78. This stayed at 125. Market started going back up. This started growing. Market almost caught up with it. 2008 happened. This took another lateral move. So at the end of 213, this was 198,725. This was 16300. May I ask you a dog question? Which would you rather have? Let me think about that. All right. Are they a perfect fit for everybody? No, they are not. But you've got to know they're out there and there are good ones. Now, this is something you can do with this type of an annuity. You can actually guarantee yourself income that you cannot outlive. So let's just take this example. This person put $200,000 in. This particular annuity gives a bonus of 8%. So they got an additional $16,000 added day one. They're 65. They leave that annuity in there for 8 years before they take money. If they wait 8 years, they are guaranteed an annual lifetime income of $19,661 a year. How much did they put in? $200. That is very close to a 10% of the original investment income guaranteed rest of your life. If you pass away and there is still money in the annuity, it goes to the heirs. That's a very important factor. You don't want to do something where if you pass away, the money goes to the insurance company. That's not a good deal, and some of them do that. You want an income rider if you want to look for income. You can arrange this on one life, you can arrange it on 2 lives. Now this is a good way to look at things down the road. If you have to look at assets, this is now income. The attorney next week will explain more about that to you. Okay? So again, you see where I get my numbers. If they wait till they're 73, suppose they don't need it at 73, they wait till 76, they get $25,000 for the rest of their life. Some of these have a rider put on them in case you have to go into a nursing home, where that money will actually double for 5 years. Then it goes back to the original amount. 5 years is a magic number in today's world. That income will double for those 5 years. Okay? Hope's not a retirement strategy, people. I don't want to be the one to tell you, but it isn't. You gotta have a plan, you gotta pull it together. You gotta keep calm, you gotta stick to the plan. It's difficult, especially when the market's doing its little thing. It's difficult, but if you have your buckets of money, you know where to take, when to take, and when not to take. This is the biggest thing that I can tell you, and I have taught this for years. And that's why I was so privileged when Dr. Keller said, will you come and talk to us? He's doing this as a team approach. I've preached this for years in my practice and in my firm. We have legal people we work with. We have tax people. We have counselors that come in and talk to our people. Sometimes the physician is involved in the financial plan. Whoever is helping you make decisions in your life should all be communicating with each other. What does that prevent? One having one plan, another having another plan. There might be good plans, but they may not work together. But if you've got everybody talking together and everybody working to make it better for you, I mean, come on, does anybody know everything? I'm not an attorney. I am not a CPA. I love those people, I love what they do, but I don't want to be either one of them. I'm very happy doing what I do. So if you've got people working together for you, it's going to make your life a lot easier. And you need to relieve yourself of as much stress as possible. Okay? I know sometimes it's hard, but count your blessings. Try to work less, play a little more when you can. Love as much as you can and smile. It'll help it all be a little bit better. I promise it will. And this is where I'm ending. Stop letting people who do so little for you control so much of your mind, your feeling, and your emotions. You get pulled from a lot of directions, people telling you what to do and what not to do. Don't let it make you miserable. Okay? Make it good for you and those you love, and life will be good. Thank you very much.